Welcome on in, you guys, and thank you for those of you joining us online. Let's stand and sing our first song, Jesus Messiah, here in worship. He became sin, who knew no sin, that we might become his righteousness. He humbled himself and carried the cross. Love so amazing, love so amazing. Jesus Messiah, name above all names, blessed Redeemer, Emmanuel, the rescue for sinners, the ransom from heaven. Jesus Messiah, Lord of all. His body the bread, his blood the wine, broken and poured out all for love. And the whole earth trembled, and the veil was torn. Love so amazing, love so amazing. Jesus Messiah, name above all names, blessed Redeemer, Emmanuel, the rescue for sinners, the ransom from heaven. Jesus Messiah, Lord of all our hope is in you. All our hope is in you. All the glory to you, God, the light of the world. Jesus Messiah, name above all names, blessed Redeemer, Emmanuel, the ransom for sinners, the ransom from heaven. Jesus Messiah, Lord of all. Jesus Messiah, Lord of all. The Lord of all. The Lord of Christ is my firm foundation, the rock on which I shaken. And I've never been more glad that I put my faith in Jesus, 'cause he's never let me down. He's faithful through generations. So why would he fail now? He won't. He won't. I've got joy in chaos. I've got peace that makes no sense. So I won't be going under. I'm not held by my own strength, 'cause I built my life on Jesus. He's never let me down. He's faithful in every season. So why would he fail now? Oh, he won't. He won't fail. He won't fail. Rain came, wind blew, but my house was built on you. I'm safe with you. I'm gonna make it through. Rain came, wind blew, but my house was built on you. I'm safe with you. I'm gonna make it through. Yeah, I'm gonna make it through. 'Cause my house is built on you. Christ is my firm foundation, the rock on which I stand. When everything around me is shaken, I've never been more glad that I put my faith in Jesus, 'cause he's never let me down. He's faithful through generations. So why would he fail now? He won't. He won't fail. He won't fail. He won't. He won't fail. He won't fail. He won't. I love you, Lord. Oh, your mercy never fails me. All my days I've been held in your hands. From the moment that I wake up until I lay my head, I will sing of the goodness of God. And all my life you have been faithful. And all my life you have been so, so good. so good, isn't he, church? He is so good. Lord, we thank you for this time that we can come before you and praise your name and speak of your goodness, God. And we know no matter what we're going through, we can turn to you, God, and you hear our hearts and you know what's going on exactly in each and every one of our lives. I pray, God, that as we move into this next part of worship this morning, when I just ask that we open our hearts, God, to hear what you're trying to tell us and be willing and obedient to listen to those instructions and do what you're saying. In Jesus' name. You may greet those around you at this time. Thank you for those of you joining us online. Let's stand and sing our first song, Jesus Messiah.
Good morning, GracePoint Church. I'm Pastor Ryan, and I'm just so glad that everyone could be here this morning, everyone who's joining us in the room and everyone who's joining us online. So glad that you could be here as well, and I hope you're having a great weekend celebrating the semi-quincentennial of our country. We have a very special service for you this morning, but before we get into that, I have a few quick announcements. First is that on Wednesdays at 6:30, we are doing Walk the Talk at Lions Park. This is a great way for us to come together as part of the body of Christ, to just spend some time walking and getting to know one another and getting to know Watertown, and then also spend some time diving into God's Word and lifting each other up in prayer. So this is a good time for that. It's Wednesdays at 6:30 at Lions Park. And if the weather's not good, then we will meet at the church at 6:30 for Walk the Talk. Next week, we have our church picnic and baptisms. So what's going to happen is we're going to have a normal service here at the church at 10 o'clock. And then after the service, we will head to Lake Campesca, have some time, have our church picnic. So we're going to bring the hot dogs and the buns. If you would just bring either a side salad or dessert to share with everyone. And then after the picnic, we're going to do some baptisms and celebrate some baptisms at the lake. And so come for that. That'll be a great time. And then we'll spend the rest of the afternoon just hanging out at the lake together as part of the church family. So that's next week. Bring a side salad or dessert to share for the church picnic and baptisms. And so now I'd like to turn things over to Dennis and Beth Will for this morning service. And they're going to talk a little bit about their trip to Israel.
That's us. Okay, this is going to be, and we intended it to be very informal. So if you have questions, don't be afraid to ask. We'll stick around a little while after. If you have more questions you want to ask one-on-one, that's fine too. But if you have a question, I'll bring a mic to you. The reason we want to bring the mic to is this is being recorded so that the people can hear what's being said or what questions being asked. So, but basically, 4 years ago, Pastor Jeff at that time and some other pastors in the Watertown community put together a tour of Israel. And that's something that we decided we were going to go on. At times it didn't look like it was going to work out, and we thought we might have to cancel, but amazingly, it did work out, even though some days we walked 3, 4 or more miles. And most of the time, it's not on level, smooth ground. It's uphill, downhill, sometimes underground, and I'll talk a little bit about that more. But it's an interesting place. So Israel, you see the map there in front of you. Israel,
There was 23 of us that went in our group, and it was a guided tour group.
yeah, we had our own bus, a tour guide, and a driver, and so we weren't held up by other groups. But the area over there, you have to kind of make appointments to go and see certain sites and whatever. So it's not like there's any chronological thing here. It's kind of like when things would work and when they could get the time or fit us in. So, but Israel map is hanging there on that table. Israel is about the 10th of the size of South Dakota. So it's a very, not a big country. So you can almost get anywhere you want in Israel in a few hours at the most. The people is about 10 million people. So while it's a 10th of the size of South Dakota, they got 10 times the people. So some areas are very, very congested, especially the cities, such as Bethlehem and Jerusalem. And the West Bank area is considered part of that as well, where there is definitely a Palestinian and Arab population. And I'll talk a little bit more about that as well as we go along. But it's kind of interesting that where we're going to kind of start out is, if you want to put this first picture up there, John. This was us. The first one on the left there is on the flight from Munich to Tel Aviv. You want to tell about that?
We had a not so delicious cheese sandwich, and it was kind of rubbery, but we ate it, and it was nourishment. So that was good, and we smiled about it.
And then the picture on the right is us. In front of it says, "Welcome to Tel Aviv." Tel Aviv is the capital city. Yes, it's kind of is, but Jerusalem is now where things have kind of been reestablished and where we now have diplomats and all that stuff is over at Jerusalem. But we got in there. That's a long flight. We left midday through Chicago to Munich to Tel Aviv. Got there the next day about noon. And this was the 18th of October of 2022. Next slide, please, John. So one of the 8 places we went to look at, this is the Jordan River.
Jordan River is very muddy. If you can see us with our hands in the water, we had one girl that was baptized in the Jordan River with Pastor Mollenheiner.
Wallenmeyer, yeah, from E-Free Church at the time. Yes, the water in the Jordan River looks like about mocha coffee. That's about how brown it is. And it's one of the main sources of water for the whole country. One of the biggest fights that's ongoing and continues to this day and has been going on for years is water. How much water we get. Again, we're in an arid country. The southern half pretty much of Israel is desert. So since Israel was established in 1948, they have done a lot of development in the northern part of the country. Basically, kind of from here on up, they've done a lot of irrigating. And so they have that area is where they grow their crops. One of the crops that surprised me that they grow there, they have huge fields that are covered and have screening all around them. They grow bananas. I never thought of growing bananas in the Middle East, but yes, they grow bananas. And so basically they do that not only to keep the predators out and from attacking the crops, but to keep the moisture in, and so that doesn't dry out so quickly when they irrigate. Again, trying to conserve as much water as they can. So, but we were down on the Jordan River I think the second day they were there. You have to get kind of permission to even go in the river because right across the river is Jordan. You're right on a line between two countries. That's the river. So, and the river again flows from the Sea of Galilee up toward the north, down south to the Dead Sea. Next slide, please. Down at the Dead Sea, back in the late 1940s, is when the Dead Sea Scrolls were discovered. There's an example on the left there of some pottery jars, which were the type of containers these scrolls were found in. And there's a display there on the right of some replicas of some of the scrolls that were found during that time. This is just south of Jericho, on the west side of the Dead Sea. These were found in caves that were dug into the bluffs on the west side of the Dead Sea. There were, I would suppose you call them kind of like convents or monks that lived in that area, and one of their jobs or one of the things they did was copied manuscripts. And so they had people lived there and copy these documents, and they stored them in clay pots.
And they found the scrolls in the, like you said, in caves, in deep holes, the original ones.
So, next slide, John. There on the left is some of the pottery that was found that these monks or people used when they were living there.
It's terracotta. I think they called it terracotta.
Yeah, they're clay pots. And on the right, what do you think that is, boys? You know, Adelaide? Can you look at that on the right? What do you think that is? That's a clump of salt that has dried out of the waters of the Dead Sea. The waters of the Dead Sea are about 30 to 40% salt. So when you go, if you want to swim on them, you almost got to dig yourself down into the water. So, and the shoreline is basically covered with what I called a gray-black, oily-looking slime. If you go swimming in the Dead Sea, you need to take a shower afterwards. There's no doubt about it. Because you're going to almost have this oily film that this Dead Sea has been slowly losing water for centuries. And so they said someday it'll be dry if the Lord doesn't come back before then. But that is salt that is just precipitated out, and as the waves would splash over it, it'd get wet again and then dry out, and it just slowly build up a block of salt. So, next slide.
Amphitheater.
Yeah, one of the places we went was Caesarea. Caesarea is named after Caesar from the Roman Empire. Caesarea is not Caesarea Philippi. Caesarea Philippi is on the north end of the Sea of Galilee. Caesarea, without the Philippi, is on the Mediterranean coast, about halfway between Tel Aviv and Haifa, which is another city in the northern part of Israel. The Roman emperor had a palace there, which actually was built on pylons that stood out in the Mediterranean Sea. And on the shore was a big Colosseum where they had horse races, chariot races, all that kind of thing, and they would entertain the people. So they found these Colosseums throughout Israel in the last 50 to 70 years that they didn't even know existed. They find them oftentimes by when they go to do project to build a bridge, or they start doing an excavation of some sort, they'll find something that'll lead them to discover areas that they never knew where they were or where they existed. On the right is a picture, and this is a picture that was taken in the West Bank area, which is considered by a lot of people the Palestinian area.
It's a protest area.
Yeah,
They were having a protest that day, and
Yeah.
they had some tires that they threw and lit on fire, and so it wasn't uncommon to be on the road and see some kind of protest going on. So you had to be careful. Our driver was very careful, and yeah, we felt safe though.
But
there
one of the
in
things
Israel.
about it is in that area, part of the culture just seems ingrained in the populous areas. They don't pick anything up. They just discard garbage. And you see the garbage at the bottom of that picture. That's just strewn along the roads. And it's prevalent throughout that whole area of Israel. Next, please, John. This is the Church of the Nativity in Bethlehem. The Church of the Nativity is built on the spot that they believe Jesus was born. And on the left there, you see some Orthodox monks basically doing a church service, a worship service. This was in partially glassed area, and I'm sure that was to ensure that they didn't get interrupted too much, because this was an extremely crowded church or area where we were in. On the right is a picture of one of the walls in that Church of the Nativity, and yes, that's all gold. That whole wall is covered basically in gold. The area, next slide, John. The next area, we're going to talk about Beth on the right there. She's down in the area, and they tend to build these churches on top of the historical areas. So she is actually on her knees looking into a cave area, which they believe...
Jesus was actually born, they say, at that star, where that star is that I'm touching.
And this church was built on top of that historical area. Part of the reason is they always felt that the church would help protect that area and keep it from being destroyed, because these areas have been ravaged and have been basically torn down and rebuilt and torn down and rebuilt numerous times over the centuries. One of the areas that our guide spoke of, he said that the archaeologists claim that some of these cities have been torn down and rebuilt 30 times. And on the left is a very interesting little structure. This is basically a open-air mausoleum. In very old times, thousands of years ago, when a person died, they would put them in this box and allow their body to decompose. And when all that was left was bones, they would take the bones and bury the bones. Anybody want that job? I wouldn't want that job. So, but yeah, that actually was taken in by Caesarea when we were up there. That's our guide there, and he was explaining how this box was used. And it just kind of, because you remember in Scripture it talks about how when the Jews came out of Egypt, they were commanded to take the bones of their ancestors to bury them in their land they were going to. So that was their cultural process back many centuries ago. Next slide, please. On the left here is actually another picture from Caesarea. One of the things you need, even if you're on the ocean, is you need fresh water. You can't drink seawater. So the Romans built these huge aqueducts that stretch for miles and basically are a trough. And the water flows by gravity throughout the countryside. This is a centuries-old rural water system, basically, where they distributed water throughout the areas where they needed it. Again, they needed fresh water. So they had built these huge brick aqueducts, and you see them, here and there. They aren't used anymore because they've fallen into disrepair. But that was how the Romans solved the problem of getting water where it needed to be. Because in history, it talks about how all roads lead to Rome. Well, the Romans, wherever they went, whenever they conquered the country, they built roads so that they could get there more quickly in the case there was an uprising, so that it was for their armies to be transported on. And believe it or not, that's basically the same reason our interstate system was built here in the United States. When it was put into place by the Eisenhower administration 75 years ago, one of its main purposes was to facilitate movement of armies and forces if need be. And you notice that on interstates, most often there are longer stretches of straight interstate. They kind of they don't go around things, they just go straight. That's so you can land airplanes on the interstate. So.
On the right is a monument of Elijah destroying the towers or the idols of Baal. And so that's what that depicts, him with this spear.
Remember, the prophets of Baal were going to beat Elijah and bring down fire from heaven and whatever, and they got to the point of even slashing themselves and whatever, trying to get their God to bring down fire. And Elijah poured water on it and everything, and the water was all lapped up by the fire that came down when he called down fire. This was on Mount Carmel, is where that was, that statue and that remembrance. So, next slide, please. On the left is Mount Tabor. That's the Mount of Transfiguration. And on the right is actually a picture from the Golan Heights looking down into Syria. And you notice, like I said about irrigation, in the forefront of that picture, it's green and there's trees growing and all kinds of things, but you look off in the distance toward the top and it's all brown. Well, the bottom is Israel, the top part is Syria. That's where the border comes through.
The border you couldn't go across. There was, no passageway, but up on this high hill you could look down across the country, and it was very dry.
Yeah. And the Golan Heights is actually a elevated area on the northeast part of the Sea of Galilee, which the Israelis basically fought a whole war over to get back in the 60s and 70s, so that they would be safer from their enemies being up above them and able to look down upon them in the Sea of Galilee. Next slide.
Beatitudes. Remember, and this is Mount of the Beatitudes, but they had a walkway where you could walk by and read all the Beatitudes as you see them.
Yeah, and this was where the Sermon on the Mount was preached. This again is kind of over on the northwest side of the Sea of Galilee. It kind of overlooks the Sea of Galilee. So, okay, next one, John. And the Sea of Galilee. Only
Sea of Galilee is small. It's a small, you can see from one side to the next.
Yeah.
But we were on a boat or a ship area. The one on the right is kind of a replica of what they were in back in the day.
that's about 14 feet long. That would have been the type of ships or the boats that they used to fish out of. And when it talks about them crossing the Sea of Galilee and Jesus sleeping, that would have been the type of boat they were probably in. The boat we were on the left there, standing by that cross, that's us standing there on the left. You can almost make us out. We went out in the middle of the Sea of Galilee. It's actually a lake. The Sea of Galilee is fresh water. But basically, they went out, and in the middle of the lake, they shut off the boat, and we just sat there and drifted for a time. And they played some music, and we sang some songs, and just had a time of worship out in the middle of the Sea of Galilee. Next slide.
This is what we had for lunch one day. It was a choice. And they gave you the whole fish. It was tilapia. It actually was pretty tasty. It wasn't that bad.
With its eye staring at you while you're eating it.
And on the right, I think, is a picture of a fishing boat that they actually dug up from the sea, or
From Galilee.
a sunken one, and it was petrified. And you can see what the boat actually looked like in the background in that blue part.
So, yeah. Next slide, please, John. This is, on the left, is a bridge that they were building. I think it was actually in 2009, so not all that long ago, 17 years. And when they started digging the footings, they started coming up with artifacts. And this was on the north edge of what was the town of Magdala. This is the town where Mary Magdalene came from. And there was a whole town laid out between this area and the Sea of Galilee, had been totally excavated, showing how the houses and everything was laid out. On the right is a picture of a cross, and again, that's the Sea of Galilee in the background. On the Sunday we were there, we went down by the sea, and we had an outside church service looking out over the Sea of Galilee. Next slide, please. I'm going to talk about the one on the right first. The picture on the right is actually still in Magdala. That's shows, if you look at it, all these pictures are in our album here. If you want to look at them closer when we're done, feel free. But this is a floor that they found in their excavations that they believe was the synagogue in Magdala. And they believe that Jesus preached there and worshiped there in that synagogue. And there's tile on the floor. And again, this is an area that they dug out of the dirt, so to speak. On the left is Pastor Jeff in Cana. That's where the first miracle happened. And if you want to look at the miracles of Jesus, there's a thing we've had on our table for most of the last 4 years as a mat that talks about the various miracles. And north is to the top, is this way, is on the map. So it's that way. It's kind of sideways, but Pastor Jeff in that picture was trying to get a note on a shofar. It's a ram's horn that has been hollowed out, and then they would use that as calling people to worship and whatever, and the various groups would have a different sounding horn so that they knew who was being called. Kind of like, you had your own, remember when you had a party line, your ring, you only answered when you got your ring, supposedly. But basically, you could know that you were being called to worship or something like that. Next slide. On the right, when it talks about in the marriage at Cana, the wedding at Cana, it talks about the water receptacles where the water was turned to wine. That's one of those they believe was the water receptacles they were talking about.
They were huge.
Yeah, they're not talking about some little 1 gallon thing. This holds probably about 20, 25 gallons. And it's made out of some sort of pottery. And it's rather crude, but that was shown there as a display at the wedding in Cana. On the left, we were supposed to go to Bethsaida, but there was, again, some issues there with protests and whatever. So we ended up going to the town called Berkshire. It's on the left. It's kind of difficult to see again. You can look at the picture in the album if you wish. But basically, this town, right in front, toward the bottom, there was another amphitheater. And the dark area in the middle was a stage. And
I think that's a stage where Heidi Coleman, that has Watertown Christian bookstore, she was on our tour, and she sang Amazing Grace in that
on the stage.
On the stage part of that. It was very awesome and very touching.
And the acoustics were fantastic, which is kind of, they, knew how to do things and build it so no matter where you were in that whole auditorium, so to speak, almost, but it's called, that you could hear very, very well, no matter where you were at in that whole area. So they knew what they were talking about. Now in the background, you see those white dots kind of toward the left, up, halfway up. Those are some tents that were set up there, and they were doing some additional digs at this site and some of the archaeological work. This town they feel was kind of destroyed by an earthquake, and they came to that conclusion because there's a row of columns that went down the center that was the main street, and all the columns had fallen the same direction. And they said that wouldn't happen if it had just been razed or torn down, that it had to have been some force that caused all the columns to fall that same direction. Now, underneath those white things to the left, was their city bathhouse. And this bathhouse had a heated floor. They had done work and had actually done some reconstruction to show how it was. But basically, there was a base floor, and then they had pylons that were about so tall, and then there was another floor that was set on top of the pylons. And they actually would burn wood and funnel the smoke under the floor to heat the floor. We're talking 2,000-3,000 years ago, and they had heated floors. It just kind of boggled my mind. And you could see that in that area that they had 2 and 3 and even 4 layers of tile that they remodeled, obviously, and just added another layer of tile on the top to get a new floor. I suppose styles changed, right? it's just kind of mind-boggling when you look at what they were able to do and what they did. Next slide, please, John. That's Heidi singing on the right when she sang.
It's Heidi.
And this was a center, Main Street, and you see some of the columns were still standing, but all the ones that had all fallen the same direction. Next slide. Okay, on the right, that picture was taken standing in front of the Garden of Gethsemane, looking across the Kidron Valley to the Temple Mount. The main structure on the Temple Mount right now is a Muslim mosque.
Mosque area, yes.
Okay. Yeah. On the left is a picture of the Garden of Gethsemane.
The trees are very old, and it's blocked off. You can't go down there. We just walked by on the street, but that's actually looking into the Garden of Gethsemane.
Yeah.
Old olive trees.
They feel some of those trees were there when Jesus walked or prayed there. Next slide. And again, another pictures of Gethsemane. On the left, that was on the right. On the left is the Western Wall, which is also known as the Wailing Wall, where the Jewish people go to pray, and there's nooks and crannies in the wall between the stones and the bricks, and they tuck their prayers written down on little slips of paper in the Wailing Wall. And there are two areas, very strict, only men on the left, only women on the right. That's the rules. And you can't be there if you aren't, how shall I say this, wearing the proper clothing. For men, no shorts. In fact, they will give you a skirt to wear over the top of your shorts, so you won't be allowed to go in without being properly clothed. Same with women. You can't go in with, you need to basically have clothing covering your legs. Next slide. On the right is Beth at the Wailing Wall. And on the left is the Church of the
Holy Sepulchre.
Sepulchre.
In Jerusalem. This is in Jerusalem.
This is a church that is built on the spot they believe Jesus was crucified. Next slide, please. This is actually at Capernaum, up on the north end of the Sea of Galilee. They have areas there where they have actually chiseled out and made areas for not only Jewish but other religious gods. Next slide, please. Back in Jerusalem, I'm jumping around here, sorry about that. On the left, we have Simon the Cyrene. He was a man who was drafted to carry Jesus' cross up the hill to Golgotha. And on the right is one of the stations of the cross. We followed that route up through Jerusalem to the site of the crucifixion.
It was very steep, and I had a walking cane kind of along, and you actually could just feel like you were Jesus, going up that. It was just amazing, going up and going by the stations of the cross. But we hear about a lot in the Catholic Church.
Next slide, please. Then we went to, there was a tomb area They don't know if this may have been where Jesus was placed after he had died. On the left is the type of stone that would have been placed in front of the entrance to the tomb. It's about 4 feet in diameter. Needs to say not something you just pick up and toss aside. There is also a little chapel there where we all, 23 of us, and basically it was pretty full room, and we actually observed communion there at that chapel. And one of the things they gave us are those little cups that are sitting there on the table toward the front. Those are made out of olive wood, as are these other items here. Next, please. Questions? If you want to come look at things or look at the picture album, feel free. Otherwise, we will say it's like 2 minutes to 11. So
It kind of makes the Bible come alive when you go to Israel. There's so much to take in. It's kind of overwhelming also, but I'm so glad we had the opportunity to go and to come back and share.
like I say,
Thank you for being attentive.
it's kind of like drinking from a fire hose. You get bombarded by, because these guides, this is their profession. They're, and they just rattle off figures and stuff and whatever. And very honestly, you kind of trust them to tell you the truth because you don't know if they aren't. It's basically they could tell you anything, and how would you know? But it is, yes, but it's an interesting place, something that we only saw probably a small fraction of all of the archaeological things that are there that you could see. But in 10 days, you can see quite a few things, but you can't see it all. No way.
If you ever get the opportunity, go.
Yeah. Thank you for your attention. If you got questions, feel free. Come on down.